Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto returns after 6 years and he hide his power in one eye part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please give me hype instead of comment and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. It was 6 years ago that Naruto left the village to train on his own. Well, actually, not on his own but with the Kyuubi. Not that anyone knew or knows that he can speak with the Kyuubi. Some don't even know that he has the Kyuubi inside of him. And even if they knew that the Kyuubi is inside of him they would never expect that he and Kyuubi have become pretty good friends. They fight sometimes of course but let's leave that aside. Okay, There was a reason that he left the village of course. It was an event that happened 6 years ago. Not many people know about it. Actually. No one except for the third or should I say Gigi. And the ones who attacked him of course. But they died. The idiots. They should have known that he would survive from an attack like that and that they wouldn't. He survived barely though. He did lose something from himself back then. That's also one of the reasons he left the village 6 years ago. The attack was so bad that he had lost his eyes, completely melted away. It was horrible. And so painful. He then decided together with the Kyuubi that they would leave the village to train and get used to not being able to see. He told Gigi of course. He said that the Kyuubi would train him for the next 6 years and that he would learn to handle being a ninja without his eyesight. Gigi asked if he could do something about it, so that Naruto wouldn't go away. But Naruto had just shook his head. No. He said, there is no way to heal it. Cause, my eyes are completely gone already. The third had just looked sad and had nodded. They decided to leave it a secret for now. He would come back in 6 years to take the Genin exam and then stay in the village to become a ninja. Naruto would let him know when he would come back and would send him a letter. And Gigi would make sure that there wouldn't be any problems with taking the Genin exam and becoming a ninja. I'll miss you. Come back soon. Gigi had said sadly. Don't worry Gigi, I'll be back. See ya later Gigi, had Naruto said as a 6-year-old boy to the third. The third had replied with a smile and had waved at him. See you later too, Naruto. The third thought while walking back. The third had brought him far away himself so that no ninjas would be able to find him. He did it himself so that only he would know about it. That would be for the best. And since Naruto was so young no one would recognize him later on. If he was only a little bit older they would have recognized him later because of his wild blonde hair. The other reason that he brought him so far away was because he couldn't walk without bumping into everything yet. The time passed by quickly so it was already 6 years later. He was on his way to the village when Kyuubi started talking to him. That was pretty normal though. It always went like that. Brat, walk faster. Why are you going so slow? Said Kyuubi. Well. Just going slow. Said Naruto. T_T. Wow, I didn't notice that yet. No, seriously, answer the question. Fine, Jeez, you're so impatient. No reason really. I just feel like walking slowly. There is a much faster way of course but I was planning to enter the village the normal way. That's probably the best for now. Yeah, I get where you're going. You're suspicious enough already with that mask on. Kyuubi chuckled. Very funny Kyuubi. But you're still right though. Even though I'm 12 years old, someone with a mask is still suspicious. That's why I have this letter from Gigi. It will allow me to go in the village without trouble or being followed. He got the letter from Gigi a few weeks ago, just after he had sent Gigi his letter when he would be coming home. In the letter stood his name and something official from the third so that he wouldn't have any trouble in the village. It was a few hours later when Naruto stood in front of the village. The two people who were watching everyone who went in and out of the village called him and said that he would have to show his papers. They found him look rather suspicious with that mask on. Naruto clothes were normal black ninja clothes. Except for a few extra details. He had long black ninja pants and all the other normal black ninja clothes with bandages around his hands and wrists. The details were all linked to a special symbol in his clothes. Everywhere on his black ninja clothes were white scars drawn on. The white scars were on his pants, shoes, white scar cross, and go on and on. He had black gloves on with a white scar cross on the top and his fingertips showing. His mask was a normal black mask except for a long oblique white scar on the mask and no eye holes. But that no one was sure of because it was so black. So most of the people just assumed that there were eye holes in the mask while there actually weren't. He had wild blonde hair going in all directions. There was nothing covering his hair. Naruto showed his papers that the third had sent him and they let him through. Now. Let's see. Let's go to Gigi first. He mumbled and started walking to the Hokage tower. He noticed that the Anbu were following him, so he stopped in front of the Hokage tower and showed them his papers so that they let him through. He knocked at the door of Gigi's office and stepped in. The third looked surprised at first but then recognized him from the picture Naruto had sent him. A pic with how he looks now. So with mask. The third told the Anbu that they could go so that he and Naruto could be alone. Naruto. Welcome back, he said happy and smiled. Naruto smiled back at him and started telling about his adventures. They talked about how everything in the village went as well. Gigi said that everything was ready so that he could take the Genin exams tomorrow. He also told him that he had told the teachers about him as well. Naruto nodded and asked what they knew. Not much. Only your name and that you went training by yourself at age 6. Oh, and don't worry about the mask thing. It's not against the rules to wear a mask. The third said. Naruto nodded again and said goodbye. He walked a bit through the village so that he wouldn't get lost when he didn't had the time to. Although he still knew the village a bit since he lived here the first 6 years of his life. He looked at the note with the directions to his apartment Gigi had given him. He went to his apartment and lay down on his bed and took a nap. Not again. It's only 1700. Kyuubi sighed. Why must he always take naps whenever he got the time for it? It's much more fun when he's awake. The next day, in the classroom, no one knew that 3 Jonin teachers were spying on them. Kakashi, Asuma and Kurenai. They wanted to know who their students would be. And the other reason was that they were bored. No one saw them, of course. They wouldn't be ninja if they couldn't even hide themselves. Uruka. Okay class, before we start the exams I have something to announce to you all. Everyone looked surprised. What would there be to announce anyway? They normally start the exams immediately. We have a new student with us today. His name is Uzumaki Naruto and he'll be joining you guys in the exams. They all look surprised. The 3 senseis outside as well. Let's see. The only information I have from him is his name and that he left the village at age 6 to train by himself. He arrived just a few days ago to take the exams and become a ninja. That's all there is. He'll be here in a few minutes. They were all stunned by this information. But sensei, how can you train by yourself at the age of 6 and then do the exams without even ever being to school before? Ino said. Well, I don't know, but this is a letter from the Hokage personally, so it should be just fine. Uruka said. From the Hokage personally. They all said, screamed, mumbled. The senseis outside were stunned as well. Kurenai. That's pretty amazing. The other 2 stared into the classroom with big eyes. Just when they were all stunned and confused, they heard a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. And the door opened. They all snapped out of their confusion and looked at Naruto. They thought that what they had just heard was confusing, but he was even more confusing. He looked so mysterious. Welcome, Naruto. If you want to go and stand in the line there, then we can start. Uruka said friendly. Naruto just nodded and walked over to the others. He's a mysterious one. I wonder what's behind that mask. It looks like it doesn't even have eye holes. Nah, I must have seen it wrong. Still strange though. His aura is really mysterious and complicated. Like, he got a big secret or something. And what's with those white scar symbols on his clothes? Kakashi mumbled. The other two gave him a look that said, right. And that says the masked man with more secrets than anyone. T_T, although they did agree with him. The exams started and everything went just fine. It was almost Naruto's turn when Kyuubi started talking to him. So kid, what are you gonna do? You could get really high scores, you know. You're already at the level of a Jonin nin, maybe even higher. Your normal abilities are Chunin and Jonin, but your special ability is higher anyone else's. No one can beat you in that. Doesn't matter what they do. I know, but I think that I'm going to do a bit above normal. I don't want to stand out too much, yet. Wahaha, you're funny, you know. I'm going to enjoy this. So what was your plan again? For now being normal. Well, they'll probably find me mysterious, but that's fine. That'll maybe even make it more fun. He grinned at the fox. The plan in short is making them wonder what I hide and slowly showing them my powers. In the meantime they'll think I'm lazy and. You are lazy. He gave the fox an annoyed look and talked further. As I said, in the meantime they'll think I'm lazy and maybe they'll think I'm cold-hearted. Not so sure about the last one though. They'll think that and not someone who likes to play pranks and stuff like that. And then I'll play pranks on them while they think it's someone else. Then as time goes by I'll reveal more and more of my power and eventually I'll show them my face. And tell them my secret. Wahahaha, you're really funny. I'm going to enjoy myself. Ha 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 ha. But wait. That's secret. You don't mean me, right? Single quote. Of course not, idiot. The other secret. Ooh. And don't you dare to call me the great Kyuubi idiot. Hi, I get it. Just then they heard, Uzumaki Naruto, you're up. He walked to the front of the classroom. Even if you couldn't see his face you would still know that he is really bored. Okay, first up the jutsu, and Naruto only heard half of it when he started wondering what he should do after this. He slowly began to fall asleep. Yeah, people, Naruto is even worse than Shikamaru. He can sleep anywhere. The weird thing is that you never know if he's awake or sleeping. Naruto. Uruka said and then screamed. Wah, what is it? Naruto mumbled, sleepy. Naruto, we're starting. Keep your head by the exams, please. Single quote. Oh. Yeah, sorry. I fell asleep. What did you say again? They all stared at him in surprise. How can he sleep standing? It didn't seem like he was lying though. Geez, he's even worse than Shikamaru. And the problem is that you can't even see if he's really sleeping or not. That mask blocks his face and he doesn't make any noise or any strange movements. Shikamaru just thought, wow. I wish I could do that. These exams are so troublesome. If I could just sleep whenever I want. That would be much less troublesome. We know what you're thinking, Shikamaru. I don't think that that's possible. It's surprising that he is able to. They all said. After Naruto was done he walked back to the line again. But before he did looked out of the window where the three senseis were spying. Wait a second, did he see us? Uruka didn't even notice us, so how did he? Asuma said, surprised. Seems like he knows more than that he shows. Kakashi said, looking curiously at Naruto. While those three were talking the teams were announced. Same teams as in the anime. Seems like he's in your team, Kakashi. Asuma said. Maybe we could do some sparring matches in a few days or weeks or so. With the rule to show in every match something new and different. Then we'll get to know everyone's abilities better. Kurenai said. Kakashi smiled at this and said. That's a good idea, let's do that. Then all three disappeared and the day went on. Everyone went home after the exams so that they would be ready the next day when they would meet their new senseis. It was early in the morning and you would expect that everyone was still sleeping. Especially Shikamaru and Naruto, but you got that wrong. Since everyone was still sleeping except for one person. And that one person was Naruto. Readers. Wait, what? Yeah, I know. Shocking, isn't it? Don't worry, I'll explain. It's true that if Naruto would start with sleeping, that it would be hard to get him to awake. That is if he ever went sleeping in the night. And since he doesn't sleep at night, he is awake early in the morning. And now you're thinking, true, I get why he is so lazy and sleepy in the daytime, but still. Why doesn't he just sleep in the night? Then he doesn't have to sleep in the daytime. That's true, you're totally right. Except, for one little thing I forgot to tell you. Let's go to Naruto, he'll tell you. So again, it was early in the morning and there was Naruto reading some scrolls. He didn't had his mask on, just a bandage around his eyes. No black band covering it or anything. Suddenly he ran to the bathroom, throwing the scrolls on the bed in the process. The bandage was red of the blood, so he pulled it off his face and threw it on the ground, not bothering to pick it up or throw it away. His whole bathroom was full of bloody bandages. He never bothered to throw the bandages away. He wasn't planning to pick the bandages up either. He just didn't saw the point, it was every night the same anyway. Damn, he muttered. You okay, kid? Yeah, I'm okay. If you say so. I know that you can't sleep at night because your eyes hurt. But still. You should at least try to sleep a little bit at night. You know you won't be able to sleep at daytime on missions where you'll be away for a few days. Well. That depends on it, I guess. Since you can sleep while standing. But still, you can't always sleep on missions. So you'll have to learn to sleep in the night. I know you mean it good, Kyuubi. But you know that it is impossible for me to sleep at night. Even if I wanted to. My eyes just hurt too much in the night. I never know why, but my eyes hurt a lot in the night, but they don't or barely hurt on the day. There are days that my eyes hurt in the daytime as well, but that doesn't happen so often. So if you don't see me for a day or maybe even a few days, then you'll know that I got one of those annoying days. And then I'm really grumpy, so don't bother me on those days. Well, they actually won't know that you have one of those days unless you tell them about your eyes. Well, you actually don't have eyes, but it's just easier to say eyes instead of eye holes or whatever you want to call them. You don't have to explain things like that. Sorry. Sigh, yeah, well, never mind. Where was I? The part that your eyes hurt a lot in the night and not in the daytime. Except for a few exceptions where your eyes hurt in the daytime as well. So on days like that you'll never show up and then you're really grumpy as well. So they shouldn't bother you on those days. Ah, yeah, thanks. There is no reason why my eyes only hurt at night. It's always been like that. I don't know why. Well, in the beginning my eyes always hurt, but with a little bit of help and support from Kyuubi I could somehow get through it. He always lends me a bit of his chakra so that I would get through it. If you would just let me lend you some of my chakra at the night, you wouldn't be in so much pain and you wouldn't have to stay awake in the night. I know that, Kyuubi. You always say that. My answer stays the same though. I don't want to lend your chakra anymore. And no, it is not because of you. There is no way out of pain, you just have to face it. That is what a ninja does. It was okay when I was a kid, but the few years before I became a ninja and the years after today are different. If I want to be strong, I have to face reality and just live with it. It's fine with me though. It's true that it's hard and that is almost unbearable at the exception, special days, that's what I call the days where his eyes hurt in the night and on daytime. And I won't be able to do much on the special days since it hurts just too much. But that's alright. I'll get through it and someday I'll even be able to live with the pain and still be able to do everything I want. I'm just not there yet. I know you will. Keep it up, it's already starting to get morning. The pain will almost be gone. He smiled and said, I know. But thanks for your support anyway. While Naruto was talking with Kyuubi, he had cleaned his eyes, put a new bandage on, put the other things that are around his eyes on, put his mask on, cleaned himself up a bit and put his other clothes on. He looked at the clock, it was only 7:50 and they had to be there at 9 o'clock. He didn't had anything else to do, so he decided to go to the academy and sleep there a bit. The pain was gone since it was morning, so he could finally sleep. He walked slowly to the academy and sat down on a chair in the back corner of the classroom. Iruka looked surprised to see Naruto so early. It was true that he didn't know him so well yet, no one did. But still, he came over like a lazy person. So why would he be so early? Maybe he wasn't so lazy after all. But he changed his mind quickly when he saw Naruto sleeping in the back of the class. His sweat dropped and decided not to think about it too much. It was just too confusing. Why would you come an hour early if you decide to sleep in the class anyway? He could have just slept a bit longer at home. Iruka actually expected him to be late because he overslept. He didn't expect him to be an hour early and then go back to sleep again. He was so confusing. He sighed and went back to work. It was 8:45 when the other students came in. Surprisingly, everyone was a bit early today, even Shikamaru, the lazy person. They were all a bit excited about today. They all looked surprised when they saw that Naruto was already there. They didn't expect him to be early. Same reasons as Iruka-sensei. Sakura-sensei, when did Naruto come here? Iruka. To be honest, I don't believe it either, but he was here already at 8 o'clock. Single quote. Everyone. EHHHHHHHH. Single quote. Iruka. And the most surprising thing is that he has been sleeping all this time. He went to sleep immediately when he got here. Single quote. They were all surprised at this. He could have just slept a little bit longer at home and then come to the academy. They decided to ignore it and sat down. No one got the idea that they could have just asked him. Not that he was going to answer their questions, but they didn't know that, of course. It was finally 9 o'clock and everyone except 3 were retrieved. I don't think this is the right word. But oh well. It had been 3 hours already since the others were retrieved by their senseis. Sasuke and Sakura were starting to get more annoyed by the minute. Naruto, on the other hand, hadn't moved on bit since they arrived at the academy at 8:45. Iruka-sensei said that he was still on the same position as when he arrived here. And that was at 8 o'clock and now it was 12 o'clock already. They just didn't understand how he could sleep like that for so long without moving an inch. And finally, after a long moment of waiting, their sensei finally arrived. He expected a few weapons and other stuff to be flying at him. It was like that every year. He had his eyes closed when he dodged everything easily. He heard some hefs, and some, "You're late," at the background. That was normal too. Then he said without opening his eyes, "My first expression on you guys is, I hate all of you." I believe he said something like that in the anime. Then he opened his eyes and saw 2 angry-looking students looking at him. He raised his eyebrow when he didn't saw the 3rd student. Then he saw him sleeping in the back of the class. Before he could say anything, Sakura said, "Nay sensei. I think he's dead. He hasn't moved since 8 o'clock. Single quote. Kakashi. 8 o'clock. That's a bit early. Single quote. Sakura. Yeah, he was even earlier than us. Iruka said that he was sleeping in this position since 8 o'clock. That's 4 hours ago. Single quote. Kakashi was surprised at this. Why would he come so early and then sleep for so long without moving? But instead he said, "Nay, he isn't dead. Let's wake him up and go to the small bridge. There we'll talk further." Just when he wanted to walk over to the boy to wake him up, the boy stood suddenly up and said, "Okay, Yon, see you guys there." Then he disappeared into a black hole. They all looked surprised at the spot where Naruto had just been a few seconds ago. They all thought the same questions, not really knowing what they didn't get anymore. How did he? When did he? Why was he? How? But I don't. This isn't. Sigh, never mind. Then Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke and Sasuke and Sakura started walking to the bridge. Hash. At the bridge. They had all arrived at the bridge. Sasuke and Sakura were sitting down, Kakashi was standing in front of them and Naruto was standing against a tree. They weren't really sure if he was sleeping or not. Kakashi asked them to introduce themselves. First Kakashi, second Sakura, third Sasuke and fourth Naruto. I'm not going to write the introductions of the first three since you saw that on the anime already. So I'm going to skip to Naruto immediately. Your turn, Kakashi said to Naruto, although he already knew everyone's names because of the spying he and the other two had done the other day. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I left the village to train by myself at the age of 6 and came back a few days ago to become a ninja. That's all. Not that you didn't know that already. Single quote. Sakura. True except for Kakashi-sensei. He didn't know it yet. Single quote. Naruto chuckled at this and said, "Oh no, don't worry about it." Kakashi-sensei and two other Junin ninjas knew it already. The other two didn't get the hint, they just thought that the teachers had done some information gathering before they would meet their students. Kakashi on the other hand did get the hint. So he did know. Kakashi thought surprised. After the introduction, Kakashi explained everything about the ninja test and told them where they were supposed to meet the other day and on what time. After that he told them that they were free for the rest of the day and could go home. Naruto disappeared in a black hole and Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sakura begged Sasuke to have a date with her and Sasuke just said no and ran off. Sakura sighed and went home as well. In Naruto's apartment. Hey kid, what are you gonna do today? Single quote. Training right. Single quote. Hey come on, don't ignore me. Single quote. 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 Hey Brad, I said don't ignore me. Don't ignore me, the great Kyuubi. Single quote. No answer, silence. Come on. Please. Single quote. Single quote. Single quote. Single quote. Naruto. Single quote. Single quote. Single quote. Blee, you're boring. Just say what you're gonna do. I'm bored, please go do something. Talk to me, please. Single quote. Again no answer, silence. Sigh, I give up. Single quote. Then Naruto finally answered in a bored and sleepy tone. Sleeping. Single quote. Single quote. Single quote. Of course. Sigh, why not? I could have expected that. Sigh. Then Naruto let himself drop on the bed and fell asleep immediately. Sigh, he didn't even eat today. I hope he'll eat a bit in the night. He does that most of the time. But sometimes he has too much pain to eat. That's why he is so skinny. Not that you can see that though. His clothes and mask are hiding it. They'll see it when he takes off his mask. But who knows when he'll do that? Kyuubi thought. The day went on and Naruto woke at the beginning of the night and at the end of the evening. In the beginning of the evening it only hurts a little bit, but when it's later in the evening the pain is almost unbearable. And it doesn't just hurt, it bleeds a lot as well. But that's becoming to get normal. He did always get grumpy because of it. So again, don't bother him at a moment like that. Naruto ate a bit and did a few other things until it got morning again. Time for the second test. Well, almost he was an hour early again. He thought while standing at the meeting place. The pain was gone again and he decided to sleep until Kakashi-sensei was here. He wasn't going to bother getting up when the others came. They would have to wait anyway, so why wouldn't he sleep? After that he closed his eyes and fell asleep. It was a week later. The test was over and they had been training and doing D-rank missions. Naruto hadn't done anything special at the test. He just showed some normal abilities and he of course said they had to work together. Since that was the only way to win. Kakashi had told the other senseis that Naruto hadn't shown his real powers, face or secrets yet. They were a bit disappointed in that, but they could live with it. For now. They would find out sooner or later. Evil smile. After training. Kakashi. That's it for training today. I'll be expecting you guys tonight at 6. Every one of the rookie 9 and their senseis will be there. So be on time. Oh right, I didn't say where. We'll be expecting you guys in the name restaurant. A restaurant big enough for everyone. So not the little ramen shop. P. Sakura. Really? Yada. Sorry if I wrote that wrong. Sasuke. Why? Bonding. And yes, you have to go, said Kakashi with an upside U smile. They all sweat dropped at this. Naruto chuckled at this. A perfect opportunity to play pranks on everyone without them knowing it is me. Let's start preparing, he thought and disappeared in a black hole. I could swear I heard someone chuckle just a moment ago. I must have imagined it. Kakashi thought. Sakura. Hey, where's Naruto? He was just here a moment ago. Sasuke. Don't know. Does it matter? Then he disappeared too soon, followed by Kakashi. I guess I'll go home to then. Sakura thought. Hash hash. It was 6 o'clock and everyone was sitting on a table at the restaurant. Yes, everyone. No one was late. Thanks to the people who dragged the ones with them who would normally probably be late. Or should I say, the girls dragged all the boys to the restaurant. Except for Naruto though, they couldn't find him. But he would probably be on time, so no need to worry. They had all ordered food they liked. Well, actually, there was only ramen and dango, so some of them ordered ramen and the others ordered dango. First, everyone except for Naruto looked at Kakashi with curious eyes, hoping that he would pull down his mask. They gave a quick look at Naruto, who was leaning back in his chair. Again, everyone wondered if he was sleeping or not. But they didn't have time to wonder about that. They needed to be fully concentrated on Kakashi now. Naruto would come later. It really was just less than a second that they had looked away. But Kakashi had finished his food already. How does he do that? They all sighed and looked at Naruto, hoping that he would take off his mask. Everyone, Kakashi as well, looked at him hoping that he would start eating and show his face. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They all started to get a bit annoyed. Naruto didn't move at all. Is he sleeping or not? Naruto found this actually quite funny, since he was awake for once and everyone seemed to be waiting for him to make his move. And since he didn't do anything, everyone got impatient. He almost chuckled but held it in just in time. Phew, almost blew it, he thought. They all gave up eventually. It seemed like he was really sleeping this time. They had tried to wake him up, but that didn't work at all. Didn't matter what they did, it just didn't work. Kiba and Akamaru had tried barking at him, didn't work. Ino and Sakura had screamed at him and punched him, didn't work. He didn't even move after all those punches. No scratch or anything either. Sasuke ignored him. He didn't care at all, so why would he bother to wake him up? Shikamaru found it too troublesome, so he didn't do anything. He instead decided to do the same as Naruto and fell asleep as well. Choji was already at his third plate. Lee and Guy Sensei were wondering who was the most youthful and who was very unyouthful. They decided that it was all pretty normal, so that they all were super youthful. After that, they kept yelling, Lee, Guy Sensei, Lee, Guy Sensei, Lee, Guy Sensei, and so on and on. Tenten had been throwing weapons at Naruto at first, didn't work at all. He still didn't move. No scratch or anything. The weapons fell just on the ground again. But decided that it didn't work and that Lee and Guy Sensei were annoying, so she began throwing the weapons at them. She laughed evilly and Lee and Guy Sensei kept saying that she was definitely very unyoutful. Neji had just sighed at all this and wished that he could go home already. He had training to do anyway. Shino didn't do anything at first, but after some begging of Kiba, he finally started helping them. He ordered his bugs to wake Naruto and they flew over to him. They tried everything, but it didn't work. Again. Hinata sat there. She couldn't really do anything. So, she just said things like, why you see and D do I it K Kiba-kun. D do why your BBSD everyone. Kurenai had been surprised and was just staring at what was happening. Asuma and Kakashi were surprised at first too, but were now laughing their off. 'Cause it was just too funny seeing them all get so frustrated. And at the same time Naruto didn't seem to notice or care at all. What they were the most surprised about was that they couldn't even sense if he was sleeping or not. Normally ninjas are always able to sense, like, everything. But they couldn't sense anything from Naruto. That was kinda strange. In the meantime Naruto had been laughing in his head. It was just so funny. But he was supposed to be asleep so he shouldn't and couldn't laugh. That's why he was together with Kyuubi, laughing his off in front at the cage. That way he could laugh without anyone noticing. So. You starting. Single quote. Yeah, let's begin. And start. The chaos. He grinned and Kyuubi grinned back. Naruto slowly faded away, in his mindscape, and woke up in the real world again. He didn't move though, so it just seemed like nothing had happened. His plan was this. He was going to use his special ability to do his pranks. But not just pranks, more like a big chaos everywhere. His special ability works like this. Sorry if I explained it already. I'm not sure he could create illusions without using jutsus or anything else at all. It was a combination with his lost eyes, so more like using his brain in the right way. And using his other senses as well, and Kyuubi, so no one is able to copy him, not even with a Sharingan. He can create normal illusions. Like everyone can make. You just see them, nothing else. You can still use that pretty well though. You can make them believe that something disappears but in fact it doesn't. So if you make an illusion that all the people standing in front of him aren't there, but they in fact are like, invisible. That way he walks into them and everyone will start yelling at him because he didn't look out. He won't get it at all and will start yelling back. Or you make them believe that something is there. Like a fire. Everyone will try to put out the fire and in the end everything is wet and again they are wondering why they are throwing water on a normal house which has his windows open. The people in the house will get mad and will start yelling again. And of course a lot more. You can use it pretty well in fights too, of course. The other sort illusion he can make is a real illusion. Okay, maybe that doesn't sound right, but don't worry, I'll explain. A real illusion, I need a new name for that. Do you guys have a good idea? Well, you should read the explanation first, I think. P is something like a normal illusion but different. You can create just like an illusion everything you want. A fire, rocks, bugs, water, weapons, and because it is still an illusion also things like dragons, birds, monsters, cats, dogs, etc. Except this one doesn't work like an illusion. These things are real. They can do real damage and won't disappear so suddenly when you hurt them. And because it is an illusion, Naruto can let them do whatever he wants. So if he makes a dragon and lets the dragon attack someone who he is fighting with, he can let the dragon appear and disappear wherever and whenever he wants. If someone would attack the dragon, it just wouldn't work cause they can hurt the dragon however they like, but if Naruto decides that the dragon won't get hurt, then the dragon won't get hurt. The illusions he makes are like waves in the air. Like sound waves but then a bit different. With those waves he can make whatever he wants. He can make normal illusions and real illusions. You're probably wondering, why doesn't it hurt the dragon then? Exclamation mark. Well, it's like this. The dragon is made out of waves in the air. So it isn't a real dragon. It works the same though. The dragon can still do whatever Naruto wants him to do. He can still bite, spit fire or do something else what a dragon normally doesn't do. But just because Naruto wanted him to, he can like, spit water or poison just because Naruto wanted him to. He can't get hurt or die since he isn't alive, he isn't a real animal, he isn't made of meat and blood. It's an illusion and an illusion isn't real. The dragon was just an example, by the way. It is the same for other things. The thing you're maybe thinking is, it's something like a shadow clone then, right? But no, that's not true. Since the shadow clone disappears after a while but most of the time disappears when it gets hurt. A real illusion is made of waves and not made of chakra. So Naruto can make whatever he wants, let it do whatever he wants it to do and make it appear and disappear whenever he wants. With the waves he can make fire and water. And it's not like the fire doesn't burn or you won't get wet from the water, cause he can make that with the waves too. So that means he can burn or drown you if he wants to. He can even create sound. Since sound is made of waves too. Or should I say, sound waves. That way he can make it look even more real. The funny thing is that you can't see the difference in the normal illusions and the real illusions. It looks the same and they can both make a lot of sound noise. That way you only know if it's a real or a fake illusion if you touch it. You might think that you could still see the differences because of the effects the illusions have. Like the wood turning black of the fire. But what you probably forgot is that you can make an illusion of that too. That way you can only see if it's real or not by touching it. Now you're thinking, but that means he is invincible and unbeatable, right? My answer at that is, no, not true. 'Cause there are things he can't do with it. And there are ways to stop him from doing it. You can't smell it. So if you know that he can't use things like fire anymore, 'cause fire smells a lot, well, he can actually still use it. You still won't be able to see the difference in a real fire illusion or a normal fire illusion. So if he closes you in with the fire, it would still feel real if it's an real illusion. But he can also fool you by making a normal illusion and keeping you there on the same spot. So my advice would be, throw something in the fire and see if it burns. The point that you can't smell the illusions can make a difference, but not always. The other thing is that you can't taste it. It doesn't work like food since it is an illusion. So if you're starving somewhere, it won't help you or him at all. You can eat it, but it won't taste like anything and your body won't take it in like real food. It's still an illusion and not something like meat from an animal. So in the end you would still be starving and looking at Naruto with an annoyed look. You can stop the illusions as well. But it's not easy. You just need to stop Naruto from making the illusions. That's not easy though. If you would try to attack him, he would just throw a lot of weird illusions at you. You wouldn't stand a chance. But what if you could do something to knock Naruto out without touching him? Or making him suffer so much that he can't concentrate on making them anymore? If you can do that, all the illusions would disappear. But how then? You are probably thinking, well, what do you think of putting him to sleep? The illusions will disappear and you can attack him without him attacking you back. Now you only have to find a way to put him asleep. A special jutsu maybe. A very high or loud sound or anything else. Oh, and don't wait until he is out of chakra, since the illusions aren't made of chakra but out of waves in the air like I told you before. Naruto still wasn't moving one bit. He just sat there, sleeping. Ahem, not. The others had given up on him long ago and were now doing their own things. Choji had just ordered some dango and turned around to order something to drink as well. The others weren't paying attention to him and were doing their own things. Naruto grinned behind his mask when Choji walked away to order something to drink and used his fake illusion. Remember the fake and real illusions? You don't. Read it again. Haha, just kidding, of course you remember. No one was looking, so no one noticed that the dango on Choji's plate suddenly disappeared. Well, it didn't really disappear, it just looked like it wasn't there anymore. After a few more minutes, Choji came back and put his drink down. Just when he wanted to sit down, he noticed that his dango was gone. Who ate my dango? He said, annoyed, but no one listened. After a while of shouting and no one noticing, he got annoyed and screamed. And slammed his hand on his empty EHUM* plate. The illusion disappeared and everyone turned around and looked at him with confused looks on their faces. Choji, what are you doing? Ino said while pointing at the now flat and crushed dango. They looked like mini pancakes. Everyone looked at him with confusion. 'Cause I mean, it is weird for Choji to get mad, but it's even stranger that Choji had crushed his untouched food. Choji didn't seem to understand either. First it disappeared and now it was there again, completely crushed. Poor dango. Never mind, Choji said slowly and still confused. The others looked curiously at him but didn't say anything. They guessed he could make mistakes like that as well. But still, crushing his food. Getting mad. It wasn't like he got called fat or anything, cause that would definitely make him mad. And, he looked so surprised after he smashed his food. Weird. Ah well, whatever. They all thought and went on with what they were doing. Shikamaru looked at him curious and a little bit worried before he shrugged it off and went back to sleep again. It's probably nothing, he thought and fell asleep again. Choji, still a bit confused, decided to order some more food and everything went back to normal. Or so they thought. This would be a weird and surprising day for all of them, except for Naruto. Evil laugh. Well, that was fun, Naruto said to Kyuubi. It sure was, kid, it sure was. But not fun enough. Naruto grinned and said, haha, did you really think this was it? It's just the beginning. It better be. So what should I do next? Single quote. Difficult. Well, let's grab their attention first. With an explosion or fire or something. I got an even better plan. Let's start the plan and start torturing this town. Grinning Naruto. Grinning Kyuubi. Naruto created illusions again and then there appeared little monsters everywhere in the city. They looked like mini versions of devils and were about as tall as a 3-year-old. They don't look like 3-year-olds, don't get me wrong. Pete, they had just like the typical red devil, a weird tail and horns and go on and on. They could use fire or water but only a little bit. They had all sorts of colors and were just starting to create chaos all over the town. They set things on fire or threw water in everyone's faces. And while they were doing that they let out a high-pitched child, devil-like laugh. They found everything funny and were laughing thereof every time they got someone mad. Think of the minions but then more evil. Naruto made them in a way that they would disappear immediately after they took just a little bit of damage. That way they would be easily defeated. Well, sort of. Naruto found it more funny when everyone would be chasing those little devils, so he made them really fast. They were good in hiding as well, so it was difficult to catch them. If it were just a few it would be fine, but there were thousands all around the city. How were they supposed to do that? They were probably all thinking. Everything that Naruto made, devils, fire, water, damage from the fire and water, of course were still illusions, real illusions, so if he said they would disappear, they would disappear. That way when they would somehow find out that he did it, he wouldn't have to pay for every store in town that had damage. He would let everyone chase the little devils the whole evening. He rather had the whole day, but it was already evening, so he would just do the evening, and let then everything disappear suddenly. It was genius. Evil smile. Back to the time just before the little devil's attack. Everything seemed to go just fine. It was quiet in town. Until they heard a scream and then another one, and then there suddenly was chaos all over the town. Things were on fire. People got water thrown on them and little devils in all colors were terrorizing the town. Every ninja looked surprised for a second and then all ninjas started running after the little devils. And that wasn't so easy. The group in the restaurant looked up surprised and ran outside to see what was going on and help. Just before they ran into town they thought they would really have to wake Naruto up, but when they looked behind them they saw that he was already gone. They assumed that he had already started catching those little devils and did the same. Or so they thought. 'Cause Naruto was actually sitting on the rooftop and was grinning widely. He of course made sure that no one would be able to spot him and sat there looking amused. At the same time Kyuubi was laughing his off. Luckily no one, except for Naruto, could hear him. With the others, the little devils were causing a lot of trouble for everyone. It was almost impossible to catch them. Shikamaru had tried to catch them with his shadow jutsu, but that sadly didn't work. He had tried to chase them but he realized that that was impossible for him, so he had given up on that. He tried to think of something that would work but couldn't think of anything. He finally decided to take a nap but instead got water thrown on his head while he was trying to sleep. He didn't got mad often but this was just too much. No one disturbs his sleep. And then started chasing the little devils. That's actually not how he would react but I found it funny so did it anyway. Ino and Sakura had tried as well but got water in their faces instead and had gone in the mad women mode. Now they didn't look beautiful enough for Saku-kun anymore. And the little devils would pay for that. Choji was just chasing them until he saw one of the little devils put some food on fire. He immediately stopped and started chasing that devil instead. He had a murderous look in his eyes. The other little devil who he was chasing before looked confused for a moment and then started torturing others in the hope he could have some fun with them. In the meantime, Naruto and Kyuubi were having the time of their life. They looked at the state of the town. It looked horrible. The houses and shops were on fire and everything was soaked with water. And then there were the little devils who were creating chaos or were being chased by ninjas and some of the villagers. It all of course was an illusion, so he would let it disappear later in the evening. But, just, not, yet. Kiba, Hinata and Shino were the only ones who were actually working in a team. Not that they had good luck. They were first chasing the little devils, but since that didn't work, they together with some other ninjas helped evacuate some of the villagers. Kakashi was one of the only ones who actually defeated some of the little devils. It surprised him that they were so easily defeated. The problem was that you couldn't catch them so easily. It's true that he defeated some of them, but that were only 10 of them or so, and there were a few thousand of them in the village. And the other ninjas didn't seem to have much luck. Sigh. This was gonna be a long night. Asuma had gotten 8 and Kurenai had gotten 6 of them. That was the same with most Junin. Sasuke was having trouble chasing them and got only 2 down. They were weak but so fast that it was just almost impossible to catch them. Neji didn't bother chasing them cause he knew it wouldn't work. Seeing all the other ninjas failing, so he instead tried to figure out what the things were and where they came from, but sadly couldn't find anything. He wasn't planning to give up yet though. Lee and Guy Sensei were both chasing after the little devils. And not without a lot of shouting, of course. Guy Sensei got 10 just like Kakashi and Lee got 5. They are really fast, right? Tenten was chasing them with weapons but didn't get one down. You would think that you could hit the little devils if you would just throw weapons at them, but that sadly didn't work. They were too fast to get hit by a weapon, no matter how fast you threw them. And most jutsus didn't work on them either. If Naruto had wanted to, he could have made his illusions invincible. So that they didn't disappear even after you hit them. The only thing was that Naruto did want them to get hit. Then they would seem more like real monsters and not like something weird and invincible. He didn't want them to realize that they weren't real monsters and that they were in fact an illusion. How do I make that stupid line? How do you guys do that? How many words do I have to write to get one line of words? But I'm talking about another line, a simple one, and I don't want to explain it, whatever, let's get on with the story. It was getting late in the evening and Naruto's eye holes already started to hurt. But it would be fine for now. He was only watching, so it shouldn't be a problem. He was awake in the night anyway, so a little bit of watching should be fine. Except for one little problem. That was that his illusions don't work or don't work very well when his eye holes hurt. It was 2300, so everyone had been chasing the little devils for a few hours already. His illusions wouldn't be so effective anymore in a while, so he would stop the illusions and stop his prank at 2400. He had made an illusion of himself to chase after the devils. His clone was a few times almost soaked with water but still kept himself dry somehow. The real Naruto would soon switch places with the clone. Then he would wait a little bit and eventually release the illusions. Luckily, he wouldn't have to make a fake surprised expression since he had a mask on. After that, he would just go along with the flow. And he hopefully wouldn't have to stay long. He was 200% sure he would get grumpy from the pain, so he had to get over with the last part quick. It was 23:45 when Naruto switched with his clone without anyone noticing. The clone disappeared and Naruto went chasing the little devils a bit more. He didn't really have that much of a choice. Well, he actually did have a choice, but found it much more fun when all the little devils would suddenly disappear at 2400, since that's just weird and strange. He was sure of it that a lot of them would try to get to know what happened. But sadly for them they wouldn't find out. Maybe some of them will be so smart that when they would find out about his powers that they would finally get that he was the prankster. But ah well, we'll see. And then finally 2400. All of a sudden all of the little devils disappeared. But not just that, all the fire, water and damage was suddenly gone too. Everyone stood there surprised, not knowing what to do. All of the rookie 9 and their sensei stood there on the street and looked at each other surprised, not knowing what to do. Naruto didn't say anything, but they could all feel a grumpy aura coming from him. They snapped out it and looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Naruto, what's wrong? Sakura asked curiously and a bit worried. Which Naruto replied with, just, really, hate, the, night. He said with a really annoyed tone. They all looked confused at him. What did he mean? It sounded like he was in pain or something. And his personality was definitely different. Probably because he was so grumpy. But the question was, why was he so grumpy? Damn it. It is starting to hurt really bad. I need to go home now. He thought and then said still with an grumpy tone, well, it seems like everything is fine again. I'm going home. And left. They all looked very confused at him but stopped looking at him when they heard the Hokage speak. The third Hokage said to everyone that they could go home except for a few Junins, Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai and some others. So everyone did what them was told and went home to sleep. The Hokage spoke with some of the Junins at the Hokage Tower, but in the end they couldn't come up with what was going on. After a while the Hokage said that they should go home and sleep. And if they would notice something or discover something they were supposed to tell it to him immediately. Everyone nodded in understanding and went home. They were all wondering the same thing. What just happened? At the same time Naruto was sitting in his apartment. He was grumpy, true. But that prank was just so genius, the little prank with Choji was funny too, that he just couldn't stop laughing. Kyuubi was of course laughing with him. He had changed the bandages around his eyes and was now putting a new bandage on. Maybe he would do something like that again. Maybe, he wasn't sure yet. Ah well, you never know. He grinned and started reading some scrolls. Now he just had to get through the night like usual. There would probably be talked about the little devils tomorrow, so he would still have some fun of his prank. The funny thing was that even the smartest one in town wouldn't be able to figure it out. Not until he would show his powers, illusions. He grinned widely, he couldn't wait. It was morning and Naruto was sitting under a tree sleeping like usual. They were supposed to meet here in 1 hour so he could go sleep some more. It was still a bit difficult to sleep today though. And no, not because he had one of those special days. It was because of yesterday. The prank with the little devils was the problem. He was just so curious how everyone would react about it and he really hoped he could hold in his laughter. But he just knew he wouldn't be able to hide that he was very happy today. Holding in his laughter should be possible. Hopefully. The prank just went so well and no one would be able to figure it out. Not until they knew he had that special power. He was still wondering when he would show them. Well, it would happen soon, that's for sure. He didn't even notice that he wasn't sleeping at all this morning. Not that anyone could see it though. He had a mask on after all. 10 minutes later Sakura and Sasuke arrived. They waited a while before Kakashi finally came. You would almost say that it was just a normal day, but it actually wasn't. Naruto looked at each of them without moving his head so that they wouldn't notice. Sakura was very quiet today. It seems like she's a bit tired and wondering about what happened yesterday. Sasuke and Kakashi were trying to figure out what happened yesterday as well, although they were actually trying to figure it out instead of just thinking, what the hell happened yesterday? Although Kakashi barely showed it. It seems like everyone in town is trying to figure out what just happened yesterday evening. Not that they'll figure it out anyway. Not until I make my move. Although, there is a big chance that a few of them are starting to wonder what I'm hiding. Not that they would think I did it. I mean, I was with them in the restaurant, so they probably won't even think about that. Maybe I did it. I mean, why would they? Naruto thought, grinning, and stood up. Let's start training, shall we? Or do we have a mission today? Naruto said while walking away a bit. The others blinked, surprised at this. Normally they almost had to drag him away from the tree because he needed to train and not sleep. He sounded bored, and Kakashi could almost swear that he heard a bit of amusement in his voice. What does he know? Kakashi thought while walking to the Hokage Tower with everyone. At the Hokage Tower. The third. Good that you're all here. He said to everyone of the Rookie 9. All the genin teams and their senseis were standing in his office. You will all get the same mission. Most other ninjas are investigating as well. I want you guys to do the same. Most other ninjas are investigating out of town, so I want all of you to investigate in the town about yesterday evening. The weird creatures we saw yesterday are new to all of us and no one knows where they came from. So if you find any information, I want you to inform it to me. I want Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai and Guy to stay here for a few more minutes, the rest can wait outside. Dismissed. Single quote. Everyone said, hi, and did what they were told. The genins waited outside the Hokage Tower and their senseis stayed in the office. Okay, so I'm not sure if the third knows of his ability. He did know that Naruto would come back to the town, but let's just say that he doesn't know of Naruto's ability and that he doesn't know that it was Naruto who played the prank. Let's continue. As you know, the weird creatures didn't just appear out of nowhere. The problem is that no one knows who did it and how they did it. I want you guys, just like I told you before, to gather as many information as possible. But who did it and how they did it isn't my biggest worry. My biggest worry is, why did they do it? Whoever they may be. I want you all to keep an eye out for if there will be another attack. There are a lot of questions, of course. Like, why did they stop in the middle of the night and why didn't they harm anyone or anything? I want everyone to try gather as many information as possible. Explained the third. But we know that already, right? So why tell us again? And why did you want to talk to us without the kids? Asked Kurenai. That's because I got something else to ask everyone as well. Said the third with a serious expression. Everyone went quiet and listened carefully at what the third would say. The search of the weird creatures will probably be going on for a while and I don't know if we will find answers. So I want to ask all of you one question. Will your students take the Chunin exams in a few weeks? If yes, then it would be a good idea for everyone to do some training together. My students are ready, said everyone. The third nodded and said, do you have an idea what you could do as a special training with everyone before the Chunin exams? We were actually talking about that a while ago. We thought it would be a good idea to have a little tournament before the Chunin exams start. Said Asuma while smoking a cigarette. The third glared at the cigarette before he decided to ignore it and answered, I think that's a good idea. Now go back to your students before they destroy everything. And keep an eye out. You never know if the weird creatures will come back. The third said and chuckled when he saw the horrified expressions of all of them after realizing that they let their students alone. And no, not because they could be in danger, but because everything and everyone else could and probably would be in danger. And not just a little. The town could be destroyed if you would just let them alone long enough. Oh crap, they all said with horrified expressions before quickly leaving the building. Again the third chuckled. He wondered how bad it was. Probably. Bad 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 bad. At the time the genins just left the building. Kiba. Man, this is boring. Now we have to wait and wait and wait until they are done. Are they done yet? Ino punched him on the head and said, we just left the building, of course they're not done yet. The two started fighting and screaming. Can you two shut up already? Neji said, annoyed, and gave them a glare when he saw that they didn't listen to him at all. In the meantime Naruto silently disappeared. Well, he was actually just sitting on top of the Hokage building. He concentrated and listened. He could hear every little sound wave through the air. Every little sound around town and a little outside, but not much. He decided to focus on the Hokage office and listen to what they were saying. He heard everything from their conversation without anyone knowing. Most of the time he was just sleeping or thinking, but sometimes he would listen. Just listen to the sounds in the air. Every sound in town at the same time was a bit too noisy for him, that's why he would just focus on a few things. He would listen to conversations if he wanted to, but he would most of the time just listen to the sound of little birds and other animals in the forest. He, most of the time, didn't listen to the conversations of people because he found it boring and he questioned it was rude as well, although he didn't really care about that. A tournament, huh? Seems like fun, he thought while grinning. Back to the others. Ino and Kiba had destroyed a few things and were still fighting and screaming at each other. There were holes in the walls and a lot of other broken things, everywhere. Shikamaru was looking at the clouds together with Choji while eating chips. Sakura saw her chance with Sasuke now that Ino wasn't going to bother them. And you probably already know, but Sasuke doesn't like it at all. She was annoying, and where was Naruto? He thought while looking around. He couldn't find him though. That was weird though, cause they were supposed to wait for their senseis. Knowing Naruto, he was probably around somewhere, although he found it very annoying that he couldn't sense him. Not that he cared anyway. For now, he should try to find a way to get Sakura of him. Although it probably wouldn't work. He sighed in defeat. That he found embarrassing. Why could he never get away from those stupid girls? He was strong. So why was this little thing just impossible for him? The only thing he could think of now was, ignore her, ignore her, ignore her. Lee had found some sake and was running around with it trying to get away from Tenten, who was trying to stop Lee from drinking it. Lee, if you dare to drink that, I will punch the shit out of you. Get back here. NOOOOOOOOOW. Tenten screamed while running after him. Lee, on the other hand, had other plans. He opened the bottle and drank all the sake. He and Tenten stopped suddenly when Lee looked drunk and Tenten looked horrified. Neji noticed that Lee had gotten drunk and thought, oh great, another problem. How and where did he even get the sake? Again, walls were broken and now there were even explosions everywhere. No idea how that happened. Sometimes they saw a bit of green in the air, what they assumed was Lee. And after a while Tenten was laying on the ground all tired out. Single quote. Too fast, while drunk. Tenten said, still too tired to talk. They all had to agree with her. Lee was for most of them just unstoppable. Except for a few maybe, but it didn't seem like they were going to do it. Sasuke, Shikamaru and maybe a few others. But they didn't feel like catching him, so they just stayed where they were. And Naruto as well, but they kinda forgot about him for a moment. Hinata was watching with horror as all the walls were breaking and just all the chaos everywhere. Shino was watching as well. He didn't care that much though. He couldn't really do anything, so why bother? Just let them be. Ninjas and Anbu would have stopped them if they weren't all out of town to gather information. Not that smart though. If there would be another attack, they would be in big trouble. They're probably close by, so they would be back in an instant, so no need to worry. Back to the senseis who had just left the Hokage building. They were already horrified at the thought of what their students could do, but when they actually saw what a disaster was happening, they were even more horrified. They nodded to each other and all went to gather their own students. After 10 minutes they had almost everyone. Sakura and Sasuke were tied up. Kakashi thought it was fun to do so even if he didn't have to tie them up. Kiba, Ino and Lee were tied up as well. The rest, Hinata, Shino, Shikamaru, Choji, Neji and Tenten, were sitting next to the tied up students. Some looked mad, others annoyed and some a bit ashamed. Lee wasn't drunk anymore and was feeling a bit guilty. He had a big headache already. He would probably still be drunk, but Guy-sensei had knocked the alcohol out of him. Don't ask how, since I probably don't know. Their senseis gave all of them a speech about what they had done and that they were impossible to work with. They couldn't leave them alone for even a few minutes and there would be a disaster. Then Kakashi said suddenly, by the way, has anyone seen Naruto? I couldn't find him. XD. Everyone looked surprised and a bit shocked for a moment and started looking around. I don't see him, Kiba said. And then Shino said, no one knows where he is. One moment he was with us and the other moment he was gone. Single quote. Well, maybe he went home. Ino said, I don't think so. He's probably sleeping somewhere. I don't sense him, but that's probably because no one can sense him. He's good at that. It's annoying though, Sasuke said. Everyone had to agree with him. But then where is he? Sakura said. At the same time Naruto had woken up. Single quote. It seems that I fell asleep after I listened to their conversation. Oh well, Naruto thought. He kid. You know that they have no idea where you are right now, right? Now that you say so. You're right, Sue. Shouldn't you go to them? Blee. Do I have to? I like this place. It's a nice place to sleep. Yes, you have to. Just go already. Can't I just send an illusion of me? No, you can't. Just go already. Maybe you're going to train or whatever you're going to do. Oh yeah, I remember. You have a mission. Fine. I'm going. Stupid fox. Hey, I heard that. While everyone was looking around to find Naruto, they were shocked when Naruto suddenly appeared out of nowhere in between them. Through the black hole, there were some shouts and screams. What the? Exclamation mark. Where did you came from? Don't scare me like that. Oi Naruto, where were you all this time? Doesn't really matter who said what before Naruto answered. Just sleeping Yan on the roof of the Yan Hokage tower. They all sweat dropped at this. He was sleeping all this time. Didn't he notice all the noise? No, of course not. I mean, he doesn't even notice it now. Doesn't he see the broken walls everywhere? He didn't and doesn't notice anything. Wait a second. We didn't notice him sleeping there at all. They sighed and gave up. Thinking about this was just too difficult. Even for the smartest of all of them. No one is able to figure out how Naruto works. He like a difficult clockwork or something. Ah well, whatever. By the way, Shikamaru, Choji, you guys should really try cloud watching or sleeping on the roof of the Hokage tower. It's one of the best spots, said Naruto. The other two nodded while grinning and decided that they had just found a gold mine. Everyone search around town and see if you find anything. Report here in 4 hours. You don't have to go in your group, just search alone and then we'll see you guys back here in 4 hours. Oh, and Ino, Kiba and Lee, you'll have to clean this up. Oh, and we got something to announce to you all tomorrow. Well, see you then, said Kakashi before he disappeared. Soon after that Naruto disappeared. Naruto grinned at the fact that he already knew what they were going to tell them tomorrow. 2 things to be exact. The other senseis grabbed each one of their students who had made trouble and said they had to clean everything up. They groaned and got to work. Ino, Kiba and Lee. Kakashi didn't have to stay cause none of his students did something wrong. So he would go search in town a bit, while reading of course. Oh right. He forgot that Sasuke and Sakura were still tied up. Oh well, whatever. They'll be feeny. _. After everyone went to gather information in town or was cleaning things up too far away, so they couldn't hear them, Sasuke and Sakura were still tied up and sat there looking annoyed. Damn Kakashi. Sasuke and Sakura thought and yelled. They got themselves free after a while, but still. A few days had passed since Kakashi-sensei, Kurenai-sensei, Asuma-sensei and Gai-sensei had told them about the Chunin exams and the little tournament. They had all been really excited. Well, in their own way. Naruto would be sleeping, Shikamaru would find it troublesome, and the rest you know. The tournament had been fun. It had helped with their training, so that was good. But there was actually another purpose for this tournament. It wasn't that important, but the 4 senseis really wanted to know it. And if you want to know what it means, then well, I'll tell ya. Although I think you already know it. It is, of course, what are Naruto's secrets and his powers? They didn't find out though. The only thing they saw when he was fighting was this. Flashback. It was Naruto's turn to fight and his opponent was Tenten. They were all very excited about this fight because they all wanted to know more about Naruto. What was he going to do? Was he going to fight normal or did he have some kind of special ability? The fight started with Tenten unrolling here scrolls with weapons in them and jumping in the air ready to throw them. The strange thing was that Naruto wasn't moving at all. He was just standing there with his hands in his pockets. What the hell was he doing? Wait a second, is he doing what I think he is? Ino said. Is he sleeping? A few of them shouted. Just then Tenten threw her weapons at him and screamed, you should stay awake when you're fighting. The weapons flew through the air and almost hit him when everything suddenly turned black. What the? Exclamation mark quote. Said a few people who weren't fighting. They heard strange sounds everywhere and were stunned at what they saw when the lights were on again. You could almost see the question marks above all of their heads. Kakashi sensei and the other senseis didn't get it at all and were a bit disappointed as well. Now they still didn't know anything about Naruto. Well, nothing new at least. The weapons Tenten had thrown were laying in front of Naruto and Tenten was laying unconscious like 20 meters away. The strangest thing was that Naruto hadn't moved an inch and it had all happened in less than a second. It doesn't matter how quick you are, you just can't do all that in less than a second and then go back in the same position again. That's just not possible. So that would mean he really hadn't moved at all and that he had done something else. Maybe it had something to do with some kind of ability he had. But what was it? That's what they were all wondering. And then suddenly Naruto moved and walked back to stand with the rest so that the next fight could begin. Whoa, was the reaction of most of them. Tenten had just woken up and had walked back into the line to stand with the rest of them. She looked perfectly fine. Nothing serious, just a few bruises you always get while fighting. And since Naruto didn't tell them what just happened, they asked Tenten. Although, her reaction wasn't really what they had expected at all. To be honest, I have no idea what just happened. Tenten said, looking a bit defeated. No one knew what to say to this, so the fights went on and everything went back to normal. Although they sometimes still wondered about it. It was still a mystery. End flashback. So, yeah, that's what happened. At the end they didn't find out anything about Naruto. The same with the weird creatures, by the way. They had been looking, searching and gathering data for days and days, but they hadn't found out anything. So yeah, it hadn't been going well the last days. Although there haven't been any attacks since that night, so that's a good thing, probably. A day. Just a training day. All the Genins had been training together since the tournament. Just normal fighting, no special abilities or anything. So Naruto had been fighting normally too. He can do that too, you know. It was just that he felt like using his ability instead of fighting normally that time. The darkness was just a cover so that they wouldn't see his ability. As you know, those are illusions and real illusions. The darkness was just an illusion so that they wouldn't see anything. Today was the same as the other days except for one little thing. Normally Naruto would be here 1 hour before everyone else except for this one time. Everyone had arrived already. Even Kakashi. Kurenai dragged him to the training ground every morning so that he would be on time. Asuma sensei had just arrived together with the other senseis and looked around a bit and then said, surprised, that's weird. Naruto isn't here yet. Some looked surprised and started looking around to see if it was true, while some others just nodded. They didn't seem to get it either. Do you think something happened? Should we go look for him? Kurenai asked, worried. Kakashi seemed to be thinking for a bit and then said, whatever happened, he'll probably be just fine. He's strong, I believe. We don't even know all of his abilities. So I don't think you need to worry. Let's say if he isn't back at the end of the day, we'll go look for him. Whatever happened, he will be just fine. They all thought about that for a moment and then agreed to wait until the end of the day. A few hours had passed and Naruto still hadn't arrived. It was around lunchtime and they were all worried but knew that Naruto was probably just fine. But that didn't mean they couldn't be worried. Early in the morning, an hour before everyone else would arrive, Naruto was walking through the forest. He wanted to walk here in peace for a bit before going to the training grounds. It was one of those special days. He hated it. His head and eyes hurt like hell. His eyes were always hurting in the night, but special days were far worse. On those days his eyes and head were hurting on the day as well. And that always made him very grumpy. Just when he was wondering how he was going to survive this, he smelled something and heard weird sound waves. A cave. In here, he thought, surprised. He walked over to the cave and walked inside. It smelled funny, so he walked further until he finally knew what it was. It was a little fox. Without thinking, he walked over to the little fox and started rubbing the little fox behind his ears, and the little fox let him. They soon became friends. Naruto discovered that the little fox could talk and knew everything about Naruto. I don't get it. How come you can talk? Is it because of Kyuubi? Asked Naruto. That's right. Because of Kyuubi I can talk to you in the same way as you can with Kyuubi. But I can also talk like all humans can. That can be handy, you know. I can talk in the Kyuubi way, but I prefer talking in the human way. If I would talk to you in public in the Kyuubi way and you would talk back, it would probably be kind of awkward. ! Don't you think? Said the little fox. .. Yeah, I guess you're right. But wait, in public? That doesn't really matter now, right? We're in a cave after all. Said Naruto. He, that's because Dopey is coming with you. Kyuubi said, grinning. Whoa, don't scare me like that. Wait, Dopey? Naruto said. Yeah, Dopey is my name. Said the little fox, Dopey. No one noticed that they weren't talking anymore, but that they were talking in their heads, you know what I mean, talking in the Kyuubi way. Naruto. Okay, so I get that you're Dopey, but why are you coming with me? How come you know everything about me? Dopey. Explaining. I really don't like explaining. Naruto. Dopey. Fine. Kyuubi, you do it. Kyuubi. What? Why me? Dopey. Just do it. Kyuubi. Sigh. Fine, I'll explain. Every fox on this planet knows everything about you. Naruto. Why? Kyuubi. What do you think? I'm a fox and I'm locked inside of you. That's why every fox can talk to you and knows everything about you. Well, every fox can talk to humans, but they just don't do it that often. Except for Dopey here, EHUM. It's just that you can talk to foxes in two different ways. Dopey. It's not like I go and talk to random people all the time. I'm probably just gonna do it much more since I'm coming with Naruto now. Oh, and I'm going with you just because I want to. Naruto. That makes sense. And Dopey, what's that for an answer? XD, and I thought you didn't like explaining. Dopey sweat dropped and said. Yeah, well. It's not like I don't like explaining things. It was just easier to let Kyuubi explain it. Kyuubi. Hey, that's not fair. Are you using me as a dummy? Dopey. Don't know. Kyuubi. What's that for a kind of answer? Dopey. Ignores Kyuubi. The rule is that the first fox you meet will be your partner. And since I live nearby the village, it happened to be me. Naruto. Ignores Kyuubi as well. Ah, I get it. So that means you know about my eyes and my special ability as well. Dopey. That's right. And not only that, I also know something else. Naruto. Something else. Wait, you don't mean. Dopey. That's right. I know about your little prank with the little devils, or should I say, the weird creatures, since that's what the people in town call it. Naruto. Wow. You really do know everything about me. Kyuubi. Guys, don't ignore me. Naruto grinned and said. Sorry about that, Kyuubi. Dopey. Yeah. Sorry. Not. Kyuubi. I could hear that. Naruto. Guys, stop fighting already. You're making my headache worse. Arg, those special days are the worst. By the way, Dopey, did you know about the special days as well? Dopey. Oh yeah, almost forgot about that. Naruto. Almost. Forgot. Dopey. Well, the thing is I can help you with that. Naruto. Really? How? Kyuubi. All foxes have a special ability. It's different for each one of them. Dopey has special healing abilities. Naruto. Special. Dopey. That's right, special. That's because I can't heal wounds, but what I can do is take the pain away. That means you won't have any pain during the night and day. Doesn't matter if you have a special day or not. Also, if you somehow get a big wound or wounds from something or someone, I can take the pain away. There is one problem though. Naruto. Sounds great. But what do you mean with that there is a problem? Dopey. It's true that I can take the pain away, but I can't take away the cause. So I can take away the pain in your wounds, but I can't take away the wounds itself. So the wounds can still be dangerous, and if you have too much blood loss, you will still get tired. So the wound can still bleed, make you tired, and it can still be dangerous. Naruto. I get that, but what about the pain of my eyes in the night and day? Dopey. The pain will be gone, but all the other problems you had with it aren't gone. One of the examples is that you have made a habit because of your eyes, and I can't take that away. Naruto. Habit. Dopey. That's right, habit. You never sleep in the night, right? Well, you still won't be able to because it is a habit. Naruto. So I will still be awake at night and sleep throughout the day. But not because my eyes are hurting, but because it is a habit. Dopey. That's right. Naruto grinned and said, that's great. Thanks. I don't mind not sleeping in the night. Just like you said, it is a habit, so I don't mind at all. Dopey smiled and Naruto grinned back at him. Kyuubi. By the way, how late is it? Shouldn't you be at the training grounds right now? Naruto. Whoa, I totally forgot about that. Oh shit, what should I do? Dopey's sweat dropped and said, it's around lunchtime, I think. But we can't be going back just yet. We got something else left to do. Naruto. Great, I'm hours late already. Oh well, I guess it's fine. Since I'm late already, it doesn't really matter if I'm just a little bit later. So what do we have left to do? Dopey. You have to sign a contract. Naruto. Oh, but that's not so bad. Kyuubi started laughing and said, that's what you think. The fox contract isn't that simple. You have to get the contract from a special place without using your special abilities. You have to prove you can survive through near-death experiences. Naruto. Wait, what? I have to do something what could kill myself? And without the help of my special abilities. Dopey. That's right. But don't worry, you can do it easily. Kyuubi grinned and said, it's quite handy actually. Now you have an excuse for being late. Naruto. You got to be kidding me. But, okay, fine, I do it. I won't die so easily. Dopey. Well then let's get started. You just have to walk to the end of this cave and jump into the ravine. I still wonder what a ravine is doing there, but well, whatever. Don't worry, it's not too deep, and there also are some soft plants on the bottom. You'll probably survive it and just keep a few wounds and bruises. Then you grab the scroll and climb back up. That's all. Naruto. You got to be kidding me. Jump in a ravine, are you crazy? And I'll probably survive. Fine, I'll do it. Whoa. He agreed fast. Kyuubi whispered to himself. So the challenge began. Naruto walked to the end of the cave, what wasn't so far. He was now standing there ready to jump. Well, you can never really be ready to jump in a ravine, of course. But still, you got to do what you got to do. Dopey was sitting a bit further away. He didn't have to jump in the ravine, of course. And by the way, he was a fox, he wouldn't survive that. But well, anyway, Dopey had done the spell so that he only for today. Only because he has to do the challenge, wouldn't have any pain in his head and eyes, the special days and stuff. Things like wounds and stuff he would get because of this challenge would hurt. That was one of the rules. The wounds he would get from this were still supposed to hurt until the end of the day. After that, the spell healing ability of Dopey would be allowed again. The pain of his head and eyes didn't got anything to do with the challenge, so it didn't really matter if Dopey did something about that. And then finally may the challenge begin, said Dopey, and Naruto jumped into the ravine. I know you normally can't survive that. But it's an anime, so that doesn't really matter. Smiley face. Naruto managed to get into a good position in the air so that the fall wouldn't be so bad. He fell on the ground, what hurt quite a lot, but it was okay. No broken bones or anything. His clothes were a little bit ripped, no, not his mask, and he got bruises and cuts everywhere. It wasn't that bad actually, but you could see some blood spots on his clothes. I believe you can see that even though his clothes are almost black. Although if someone else would look at him, they would probably be shocked. I mean, ripped clothes, blood and wounds. Well, that went pretty well, I got to say. Naruto thought and stood up ready to look for the scroll and climb up the ravine. He looked around and saw the scroll immediately. The scroll was pretty small, what was handy. Now he could put it in his pocket. After he had put the scroll in his pocket, he walked over to the walls of the ravine looking how he would climb up again. And that wasn't so easy. He scratched the back of his head awkwardly. Right. How am I going to do this? After a while of searching, he finally found a good place to climb up the ravine. After an hour or two of climbing and falling, he finally came to the top and let himself fall next to Dopey tiredly. That was so hard. Good job. You're ready to sign the contract now, said Dopey. He'll talk normal now, and not like Kyuubi talks. If he does talk like that, I'll say it. So that's what Naruto did. He signed the contract with his blood and after that started treating his wounds. He had some bandages with him like any other ninja would have as well. Kyuubi, you guys better go back to the training grounds or else they'll come looking for you. Naruto. Right, we better go then, right, Dopey? Dopey jumped on his shoulder and said, let's go. I'll be sitting on your shoulder from now on. Naruto. Yeah, sure. But man, I'm tired. I could fall down any minute now. Damn, I want to sleep. Dopey. Don't you dare to fall down now. Naruto. Yeah, I know. Well, let's go then. Training ground, end of the day. They were starting to get more worried by the minute. Naruto hadn't come to the training grounds the whole day. Just when they wanted to go and tell the third and start looking for him, something happened. Choji. Wait a second. Is that Naruto? Asuma-sensei. You're right. He's walking right there. I wonder what happened. Naruto came walking to them and let himself fall tiredly on the grass. They were all too surprised to talk or ask things for a few minutes. After all, it was all so strange. Naruto seemed too tired to talk for a few minutes. Also, his clothes were ripped and the holes in his clothes were surrounded by spots of blood. Under the holes were bloody bandages. All of that was just strange. So far Naruto hadn't had any problem with fighting and never had a scratch. Now he was really tired from fighting or something else and not just lazy. It's true that the wounds didn't seem so serious, but still. How was that even possible? There also was another thing. There was a little fox sitting beside Naruto. Eventually Kakashi decided to speak up. Naruto, where have you been? What happened? What's with the fox? Naruto sat up tiredly and pointed a bit annoyed at Dopey. All because I met him. You could hear the, sounds coming from the most of them. Naruto and Dopey signed and they started to explain about the day. About how he met Dopey and that Dopey appeared to be a contract maker, don't remember the correct word for that, sorry. Then he told them about the challenge and the other stuff about jumping in the ravine and climbing back up again. They of course let some things out of it. Like the ability Dopey had and some of the other secrets of Naruto. First everyone was surprised and shocked when Dopey suddenly started to talk, but after they understood he was a contract maker they weren't so surprised anymore. But seriously, you had to jump in a ravine? Said Kiba, surprised. Now I get why his clothes are ripped. Kakashi said to Asuma. Asuma? Yeah, but still. He jumped down a ravine. I'm surprised he's still alive after all that. No, Wait, I'm not surprised about that actually. I'm more surprised that his wounds aren't bigger than this. Kakashi. Yeah. True. In the end, everyone went home to rest. Naruto could also sleep for a few more hours before it became night. The Chunin exams were in a few days after all. It was the first day of the Chunin exams. Every year there are 3 exams which are different every year. Not the same exams as in the anime. Except for the battles maybe. Also, Sasuke isn't going with Orochimaru this time. Since the story is different right now. It's about Naruto right now after all. This year you won't be doing anything in groups of 3. This year you're doing everything by yourself. So you're all on your own and you won't have to worry failing if one of your teammates fails. 'Cause you're not teammates in this exam. But that doesn't mean you can't work together. Not sure if you'll have the chance though. The first exam. Instructor. Welcome to the first exam. Behind me is a deadly forest that all of you will have to cross. You will get a scroll from me and then you'll go one by one through the forest. You are, of course, not allowed to damage the scroll. A little bit of damage doesn't really matter. Just make sure not to damage it too much or you fail. Sasuke. Where are we supposed to bring the scroll? Instructor. You'll recognize it when you get there. It is just behind a big bridge. I'm not so sure how long the forest is though, but I do know that it'll take an hour, maybe a little bit less, to get to the end. If you can even cross the finish line. Someone from another village. Wait. What do you mean if you can cross the finish line? Instructor. What do you think? It's not called a deadly forest for nothing. There are a lot of dangers in that forest. At least half of you will fail at this test. If you fail, you're probably dead. Some of them gulped and the instructor continued. There aren't that much of all of you, so we'll probably manage it in one day. You will be ranked in order. You could say that the first few are lucky and the last few are unlucky. 'Cause you are allowed to lay traps in the forest. Even traps that could kill. Some of the more evil ninjas grinned and the instructor continued. You will get 1 hour to get to the end. If you're not there by then, you failed the first exam. At the beginning and at the end of the forest there will every time be someone who yells who failed and who is going to start. As I said, if you fail to come within the hour, you're probably dead, since you'll probably be able to do in about 45 minutes. Gaara. If you or someone else finishes early, will the next person start early as well? Instructor. That's right. Well, I'll be announcing the order then. The most of the Leaf and Sand Nin were a bit at the beginning or at the middle except for one. Naruto was last. Oh no, Naruto is last. I hope he'll be okay. A few of the Leaf Nin thought. The instructor had also told them that it was okay to bring your dog, fox or another animal with you in the forest. They had also been told that their senseis were waiting for them at the finish line. Now they had to wait until it was their turn. A lot of time had passed already and Naruto and Dopey were the only ones left waiting at the start of the forest. A lot of people had failed, but the ones who failed weren't from the Leaf or Sand, of course. All of them had passed the exam and were waiting at the finish line. The shortest time someone managed to do was 25 minutes, Gaara, and that was pretty impressive. The others had done it in about 35 minutes to 50 minutes. You could say that all the weak ones were gone already. And that the strong ones were left behind. They did have a lot of damage though. Most of them had some wounds everywhere except for Gaara, of course. The wounds weren't very serious though. It was dark already and it was, finally, Naruto's turn. Kakashi. It seems like it's Naruto's turn now. Shikamaru. He's a bit unlucky that it's getting darker and darker. But on the other hand, it's Naruto, so he should be fine. The rest agreed and waited until Naruto would arrive. Back to Naruto. Dopey. Seems like it's our turn now. Naruto. Dopey. Wake up. Naruto. Whoa, oh. It's our turn. Dopey. Yeah, let's just go already. Kyuubi. Laughs. Seems like it's dark already. Well, good luck. Laughs again. Naruto. Kyuubi, stop being sarcastic, seriously. Dopey. Yeah, Kyuubi. Listen to what Naruto says. Kyuubi. HMPF. You're on his side. I thought you were mad at him. Well, whatever. Just go already. Naruto. Let's go. Dopey. Let's go. Kyuubi. I just said that. Sigh. Ma. Whatever. Naruto and Dopey entered the forest and started jumping from tree to tree until Naruto suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Dopey asked. There are a lot of traps here. Naruto said. Dopey. That shouldn't be a problem, right? You can dodge those easily. And by the way, you noticed that the traps were here, and that isn't meant to happen with traps. You're supposed to notice them too late. So what's wrong? Naruto grinned and said. There is nothing wrong. I just got a good idea. Dopey. Naruto. I'll bind some ropes on the traps and do some other things with the traps. I'll connect all the traps with this rope and take the end of the rope with me. And then when I'm like 1 meter from the finish or so, I'll pull on the rope and everything will explode. Dopey. You're going to connect all the traps. And then when you're at the end, you'll let everything explode. It was quite for a few seconds before Dopey said, grinning, best idea ever. Let's do this. But, Naruto. But what? Dopey. But what about all the other dangers in the forest? They said it isn't called the deadly forest for nothing. It's also pretty dark already, you should be careful. Oh, and don't lose or damage your scroll, remember. Naruto. Don't worry. It'll be just fine. I'll just defeat everything that comes in my way, the darkness won't be in the way. And no, I won't damage or lose the scroll. Dopey opened his mouth to say something when Naruto interrupted him, and no, the rope won't snap or burn. Have a little faith in me, will ya? Dopey. Yeah. Sorry. Let's go then. They went from trap to trap and defeated monsters in the way. They also dodged falling rocks and held their breath when there was poison in the air. After 15 minutes they arrived at the bridge. The others saw them and waited for them to come. They were happy and a bit surprised as well. First, Naruto and Dopey didn't have a scratch. Second, they made it in 15 minutes. Third, Naruto was holding a rope which they couldn't see the end of. Fourth, they suddenly stopped and turned around. Kiba. Oi, Naruto. You comin'. The others screamed some things as well, but Naruto didn't listen or turn around. They looked at each other surprised. What was happening? Why wasn't he coming? The other nins and the instructors were watching confused as well. Then they suddenly looked up at Naruto, who said, let's do this. He pulled the rope. There didn't happen anything for a few seconds and they were all looking confused at Naruto. What was he talking about? What was he doing? Then suddenly the whole forest exploded. They all gaped at him with open mouths when he walked back feeling satisfied. The fire died down after a few seconds and the only thing that was left was a big hole. Everyone. What the? Naruto. What's wrong? Everyone. Look behind you. Naruto looked behind him and laughed. Oh, that. Cool, right? I connected all the traps and made sure they would go off and explode when I pulled this rope. They gaped at him and he laughed again. The first exam is over now, right? He asked the instructor. Yes. It's over now. You can all go home now. Naruto walked over to the other genins and their senseis, Leaf, and waved his hand in front of a few to wake them up. Dopey helped as well by jumping on their heads one by one. After they had recovered from the shock, they went to a nearby restaurant to eat and drink something with everyone. They talked about the first exam and what they had seen. They also asked Naruto questions about how he did it and stuff like that. The senseis and a few of the other genins were still amazed at how Naruto managed to do that. They were a little bit sad though. After all, they didn't find anything new out about Naruto. Kakashi and Naruto, Aga managed to eat and drink so quick that no one saw their faces. They talked about a lot of things. The next exams included 2 exams to go, 1 cleared.